Now, as a responsible adult, I have to give this one a rather unusual warning label. It is really late, and I'm just ever so slightly broached, as in feeling the slight hint of a sickness that failed to truly take root, so I do not actually feel ill, but I might maunder a bit more than I normally do. Well, what I wanted to cover really just for myself, the distinction between the usage of who and whom, because even though it might seem like a trivial problem, there are some cases when the correct decision is not always apparent, at least not immediately, and even though I am usually quite spot on just using my instincts and the bits and pieces that I do remember from reading about this particular plight, I still do prefer to actually know rather than guess, and maybe if I go over it here, it will stick better. And for the main difference, who is a subject and whom is an object, but being able to tell, especially when I'm simply speaking, not writing, that is a whole another issue, which stems from me having not nearly enough experience in actually using the language outside of some controlled environment. And what I do remember are some helping hands one can extend to himself, in this case, me, when I can rearrange the sentence or the question and replace who with he or she, then it's who. And when the replacement is her or his, then the proper choice is whom. For example, who told her? And the replacement would be he or she, so who is correct? While whom should I give this to? And I would give it to him or her, so whom is correct? Or another way of telling these two apart is to determine who is doing the action and who is on the receiving end of said action. A subject performs the action, and thus in that case we use who, while the one on the receiving end is an object and we use whom. And to summarize it, who is a pronoun. We use it to refer to something, and whom replaces it in cases where it would receive the action of that verb. Which also reminds me that I will have to do a bit of a research and reminder to myself about when and where in imaginary scenarios, which also seems to be slightly blurry in today's English. However, that will have to wait for some other time. Also, no storytelling. I did have a revelation of sorts, wrote down a short note even, but that will take a few months at this pace before I finally get to it. So meanwhile, some rapid arrows and their rather hectic vacation, although that part had had a happy ending at the end of the previous video, and now they are finally able to camp, enjoy the nature, and simply be young adults, play and explore, which is exactly what they are currently doing when they emerge from a vast forest The first thing Speedy sees is a stream or even a small river full of large stones which form these natural weirs, which obviously has him rather excited, maybe even a bit too much, as he receives a friendly reprimand from Yindra asking him to be obnoxiously loud quietly, but that can barely make a dent in his enthusiasm. And the rest of the club soon joins him. They do change into water suitable clothes at first just to sit around, even have a meal, but then it's Redcap who becomes truly eager, ready to use the boulders to traverse this small river up and down, across and back, and it is Yarka who puts a bit of order into that chaos. He proposes to play tag with a bit of a twist, no running or jumping into the water in an attempt to escape the tag. So it is a bit of a combination with the floor is lava, as they can only escape using the stones scattered throughout the river. And as everyone takes turns being the hunted and the hunter, it is Indra's turn to chase, and his prey is Speedy. But before he can even reach him and give him the tag, poor Speedy has an accident as he slips into the river and even receives an admonishment and a reminder of the rules while he is in mid-flight, as he clearly was not running and there were no intentions behind his plop, but as the man he is, he attempts no weaseling out of the situation and simply becomes it. After a while, it is Mirag who has an idea this time what they could do with those weirs and pretend play a bit of whitewater rafting. Everyone would carve a small boat out of wood or simply from bark, equip it however they see fit, and then send it down the stream with the rest of the club hindering the vessel using stones, throwing at it from the banks, and as they get to it, sitting on the logs left behind by woodcutters, Speedy observes his friends with a bit of resentment, pondering on how to create a submarine that would definitely escape their attempts at Phantom destruction. Alas, it is not possible in the short amount of time to create something like that. And thus, later on, when everyone is presenting their mastercrafts, we get to see a wide variety of sailing boats and even one what can only be described as an imitation of a steamboat. The number of sails varies across the four, so we'll see if that has an impact on the survivability of these tiny boats. Mirek is going first after one last time reminding everyone that it is forbidden to actually enter the river or even jump onto the rocks in it. They can only shoot from the shore. And then it's time for his boat to attempt its escape. It sails rather well. All the ammunition simply keeps missing, even though sometimes it is by a hair's breadth, which means that his vessel, sporting two sets of three sails on two masts, successfully completes its run for its life. Then it's Speedy's turn and his single sail keel in which he poured his heart into unfortunately meets a disaster in the form of Indra's well-aimed projectile breaking its mast and sending it sinking to the bottom of the abyss to some great wailing from its creator as he laments the terrible fate brought upon it by one of his comrades. Then Yarka notices some new arrivals beyond the horizon as a group of unfamiliar boys emerges from behind a nearby hill, their intentions unknown, at least for now, but that will have to wait for the next video as I am officially done and extremely ready for bed. So that is the end of this one, and next time more of hopefully not the same but better.